Share. All right. So kind of like, just to review, I guess a little bit, you can obviously do PSQL. If you are using the Postgres app, right, you always just want to make sure, like you see the elephant guy running. If it's not running, then you'll probably get like some sort of server error. At which point, if you're on a Mac, you can just type in Postgres and then click on it, and you're fine. If you're on a Windows or you need some other way to search, you generally can just double click on the application in the Finder or some sort of equivalent. Um, right, and then from there, obviously we know. So I just connected because I'm not providing any uh, like argument names. It's just connecting directly. It's like using my login name and saying that this is connecting to that database. All right, to like the Jeffrey Katz database.
Hello, Jeff.
Hey, how you doing? Um,
Uh, do you hear me?
yeah, I hear you.
I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
I have no idea why.
Okay. Do you hear me now? I guess not. Yeah, it sounds. I'll message you. It sounds like it's on your end, Narapati. Um, but let me. So we'll keep going. So, okay. So this is right to connect to. Like this is specifying for you what database you're connected to. Oftentimes you'll be connected to like the wrong database. So you can see all the databases right with // I always get confused. What's what? This is I think a / L. Then you can connect to a specific database by doing like let's say here's the Moz bar. Again, tab completion works here, right? So you're fine with that. And now you connect. Once you connect, and you can also press Command K to clear your screen, which is what I'm doing. Once you connect to the database, then you can display the tables, right? If you want to see a specific schema of it, you can do /d bartenders, and here we can see, what is the schema here. All right, so those are the main commands I use a lot. Yeah, and then /q to get out. Now, in terms of like creating a table, uh, let's show you. So this is here. Here I'm creating a table right in Postgres. So it's very similar to what we've seen previously. Just some things to take care of. This if not exists. This is optional, right? You could also do create table orders. What the if not exists is for is it's only going to create the table if one does not already exist. Okay, so if we have a table already called orders, this will not run. All right, this avoids say like basically you'll get an error message if the table already exists and you try to recreate it. You can see the type is different, right? Serial. This is an integer that increments. Okay, so this is kind of the equivalent to the auto increment true. It's just called a different data. It's called a serial as the data type. All right. Timestamp. Here you can see the default is the current timestamp, right? So in other words, if you do not have like when you insert a row, right, we do like the insert into, if we do not provide a value here, it will set the current timestamp as the value. This is very typical, right? This is like a very good this is painful if you forget a create. Basically every single table should have a created at column because it gives you a record of when was this data from, when was it, and even like lots of times you'll see updated at as well. Like maybe it was first inserted into this day, but then updated here. And those could be 2 different days, right? Okay, some of you all have asked about this in the past, right? The foreign key. So what this is saying is this is a constraint, really. So this is a form specifying that the user ID. So you both have to create say hey we're gonna have a column of user ID, and now we're going to constrain this user ID column or the values in the column to make sure that they line up with the column in the users table that ID value. In other words, if you have a user ID of that has, let's say this is my orders table, and we have a user ID of 1, then this only works if you already have a users table with an ID of 1, right? Why do they do this? Well, because now if I have a user ID of 2, but 2 doesn't exist in the database, this is meaningless, basically. Like, all right, I can look up user 2, but he's not there. So, that we wouldn't want to occur. So we can just constrain it, like have this throw an error at the database level if this occurs, okay? To say, hey, you must be doing something wrong here. Okay, cool. Apparently there's also a now function. I don't know if that's any different. Maybe it is, I don't know. Okay, cool. So this is, otherwise creating a table works the same way. The only other thing maybe to look at is just like the data types, right? There's more data types with Postgres. All right, but still, like, you'd end it with a semicolon, like end the entire statement with a semicolon. Now, how do I run this, right? Okay, so first let me just log in. I like to like get my bearings. /L. Let's do this. Let's create a database like sample. I'll just call it sample orders. That's fine. And notice I'm putting this, and I spelled it wrong, but I'm putting in a semicolon at the end. And now, I can connect to it and just take a look at it, but we know there's nothing there. Sample orders /GT. We're done. Okay, so now I want to create this new table. So the way that I can do that is, one, I can connect to the database. I can do PSQL dash. Okay, so I can connect to the database. I can just do PSQL. I can do /C, where I connect to sample orders, and then I can run this. Basically, just copy and paste this. Okay, this is like one way to do this. Users does not exist. Wait, why is that? Am I copying something? Oh, because it's saying references users. That makes sense, right? That's a pretty good error. Let's delete these. Right, do you get what that error was? It was saying, hey, like, you have this foreign key referencing the users table, but the table users doesn't exist. So and it's going to give me the same thing for the products table. So let's delete these, and we'll be fine for this example. Let me Control-C. So now I'll paste this in again, and I have a syntax. My apologies, because I have a comma now, an ending comma. So we'll just delete that. Let's try one more time. Okay, beautiful. And now it says create table /D orders, right? And we're good. Okay, so that's one way. It's just copy and paste the SQL code in there. Another way that you'll probably do this is actually to just run this file against the Postgres database. So let's show how to do that. So the first thing, so normally when I do PSQL, it connects me to the wrong database, right? It connects me to Jeffrey Katz. Instead, let's specify the database that we want to connect to, which is sample orders. So I'll do that with the -D flag, all right? So -D, and then I'll do sample orders, and it's underscore, right? So now, notice when I press return here, I'm directly connected to sample orders. You can also specify like the user with a capital U. So let's say if I want to be like the Postgres user, right? I can do this, and now if I do con info, right? I'm as user Postgres here. You guys see that? So these flags allow you to kind of like specify, attributes of how you're connecting to Postgres. There's more, right? Which is oftentimes it's possible for me to create this table without even logging into Postgres. So to do that, first let's just connect to our database. So we can see that this is already in there. So let's drop table orders, semicolon. And now we will just make sure it's not there. Cool, so it's not there. So now quit out of this. And now we'll do this. We have this table here, so we'll do PSQL. Now we have to specify the database we want to run this file against, so that's -d sample orders. And that's really it, honestly. We could specify the user, but from what we want to do, I think we're good if we just say, now I want to specify this file. So it's -f create tables.sql. All right. Now run this, and notice that spit out for me create table. So that looks pretty good. In fact, let's connect /dt/d orders, all right, and you can see the table. Okay. So again, what I needed to do was specify the database I'm connecting to, right? Sample orders, and then say, hey, I want to run this file against the database. Okay. If you want, you can even, let's say this is query.sql. You can even specify queries here. Select all from orders. Okay. And now let's run the query.sql against that. And notice it spit this out for me, right? I'm not logged into Postgres. This is all from Bash. And this spit this out. I'm trying to think, there's probably even a way, if I do something like this, I probably could, you see that? Instead of spitting this out to the terminal, I'm saying I want to redirect this. I'm doing the arrow here into the results.txt file. And now you can see that created the file and spit this out here. You can do this probably, there's a way to do this like formatted, like format CSV, format JSON as well. I just don't remember it off the top of my head, but you can. I'm sure like a quick Google can show you that as well. Other things I wanted to show you. Did I specify a chain of queries? Okay, so what you would do, there's different ways to do it. So David's asking a question. Can you specify a chain of queries to run and then dump the result into a CSV? So you'd probably split them into separate CSVs, right? So you could, you could specify this as like a bash command, I guess, and then, hey, say run this, or you can just simply create a separate file per query, which is not a bad idea. That's probably what I would do. Other things that you can do, instead of running the file, you can do the -c command and say select, and this works just like the file, except that you provide the command right here. So select all from orders, right here, and that, right, this flag is for command. So the command is to select all from orders, and then the same thing, I can redirect the results into, other results.txt. Okay, so now let's just make sure we get that. I said, okay, I'm going to connect to the database. I'm going to issue the command to select all from orders. So this is, my Postgres command. And then I'm using this bash. This is just a typical bash command, which redirects the results into other results.txt. Okay. Just to spend one more moment on this redirect thing. You can do this with anything. I think so. If I do echo hello world, right, the output of this is hello world, and I'm going to say let's redirect the output. So instead of showing the output, redirect this into greeting.txt. Okay, you get that? So now this says hello world. So that's exactly what I did above here. Is I said, okay, normally this is going to spit this out to my screen. Instead of spitting this out to my screen, let's redirect the output to, my orders, whatever we want to call it, .txt. And it's just this caret. So this is the output, this is the caret, or the redirection. Redirect this to, this is the target, to this right here. Okay. Cool. So those are the main things. Right, in order just to go over the file part one more time, because it is very useful, right? PSQL, specify the database -d, right? Name of the database, dash specify the file you're going to run, and then, typically you're doing this with the create table, right? Create tables.sql, run it, okay? If you don't, let's just do this. If I remove the if not exists, we'll get a very typical error, which will say error orders already exists, right? We're trying to create a table that already exists. It's not going to allow that. If you want, you can put a drop table orders here, right? And then it will recreate it. So let's try that. You see that? Drop table, create table. Okay? So that works fine. All right. Questions about this stuff. Make sure you maybe take a look at this. Make sure you understand this. Make sure you understand this. Cool. So what's there for you all to do is, so there's this reading, which I think I missed. And then the Postgres terminal. So that's these are the two things we covered. And then there's continuing with this lab. And then finally there's the scicop G2 library. The only thing, this is not so tricky. The only thing to tell you though, or to remind you, is that if I try to run, there's a reason why I don't have this as interactive in the Jupyter Notebook. So basically we install scicop G2 binary. This is just a pip library. And then we specify how we want to connect to the database. One thing to note is that this is assuming that you want to connect to the local database. So if you try to do this from like Colab, this isn't going to work, right? Because you're on Google's computer when you're in Colab. So instead what you need to do is, you can have this as a Python script or in your local Jupyter Notebook, and we can call this, connect Postgres. Oh, sorry, not .sql, .py. My apologies. Okay, and I would just do import scicop G2. Okay, and I'm going to connect, and now this is connecting to the database movies as the user, and I guess this is my password. I don't know if I have a password. If you don't have a password, you can just remove this. Okay, and then you can always, like if you're in Jupyter Notebook, you can look. You should be able to see the arguments to this method, or just take a look at the documentation. So we create the connection, we create the cursor, then we do cursor.execute, and then we get the result here. Let me see if there is that database PSQL -d. This is a good thing to do. It's like first try it out in the terminal. PSQL -d. The name of the database is movies, and then name of the user is Postgres. -u Postgres. Oh, and look at that. Database movies does not exist. So let's just do the one that we just had. So it would be sample orders. So we'll do sample orders. And now we'll do select all from orders. And these will be orders. And then I'm just going to Python 3-i connect Postgres, remember Python? And then we press return. Oh, no module name scicop G2. So what I should do is install it. That's pip3 install scicop G2 binary. I don't know why scicop G2 doesn't work, but this is safe. This works better, the hyphen binary one. And now we should be good, I believe. So just run this, Python 3-i connect Postgres. That looks like it's connecting, right? And now if I look at orders, there are no orders in the database, but it did run. Otherwise, it would have issued me an error. Okay. This library is exclusive to Postgres. We don't specify the port, so it's this is just, that's a good question. That kind of will ask. This is just for connecting to the Postgres database. You can specify all of those. Here, you can see it right here. You can see the different components it takes. Database name, database, the user, the password, the host. The host is localhost, right? And the port. If it's not provided, right, it's defaulting to 5432. defaults to Unix socket. Basically, it's defaulting to localhost, right? If it's not provided, okay. But you can put like port 5432 or whatever you specified, and then the host, I think we could say, is a local host. All right, and we'll be good. Let's just confirm that. Right, it worked fine. Right, and now if I look at orders, we're good. So here's with everything specified. Okay. All right here. And that's it. Like there, from there, you can just connect to Postgres, which is nice. Cool. All right. So